race fans. I'm Dobbs Davis with Seahorse Magazine, here to give you the daily analysis report from the Transpac race 2021 for 20 July. That's today, Tuesday, 1 week into the race. 1 week ago, the first wave of starters vaulted off the starting line, then they stopped overnight, and then they got started again. Whereas for the next two starts on Friday and Saturday, everybody was more or less at full speed and never stopped. So that's why we're seeing this convergence of boats. They all look very bunched together. We're going to see in a minute what that actually looks like when you scale up. By the way, the scale, when you look at these images, it's down here in the left corner, lower left corner. So this is 200 nautical miles in this space bar. Now, let's zoom in a bit. Oh, and then the other thing to point out, too, is we do have a 4-hour delay from real time on where these boats are. So if we put the cursor over this image, oops, where are you? There you are, like the pie wacket. If you look closely in at this explanation box, this was done at 10 a.m. Hawaii time. So that's 1 hour, that's 1 o'clock California time, and 4 o'clock on the East Coast. It's now a little after 8 o'clock on the East Coast, so that lines up with this 4-hour delay. So this is this is a little bit of time zone leaping that you have to think about. But the other thing to notice is our wind up here, our wind scales and the weather that that we see from this default windy app that's used to show what's going on the course. That's not really representing either the current time or what these boats have experienced at the time that we're seeing them in these positions. So in other words, we can't say, okay, here's Wacket, they're going 19 knots. Well, that makes sense. They're in a zone of deep green here and 20 knots of wind. Well, that's actually not true. This is actually even looking ahead. So this scale, when you scroll up and look at how the patterns change, you got to pay attention to the timing, because these are actually projections of the weather models into the future. They're not lining up exactly with what our boats are doing on the course. However, having said that, this still is really a valuable tool that gives us a generalized idea of what's going on. Notice, for example, down here at this end of the course in Honolulu and the islands, it's blowing really hard. I mean, there's plenty of orange there, 25 knots, 25 to even 30 knots. One of my colleagues there said last night, boy, it's really, really blowing hard here. Lots of wind and lots of big seas, and out in the channels, it's even more. So if that persists in the next few days, when the finishers arrive, it'll be quite a spectacular sight. All right, let's zoom in a little bit and tell a couple of stories here. And by the way, the generalized pattern of the weather is more or less staying the same as we've been saying all along these last few days. The high, while it looks precariously close, you know, this lobe here of blue and light air, you know, looks precariously close up here toward run line, but except for these guys on LiveWire, who seem to be glued to the Great Circle route and really minimizing their distance. I don't know that anybody on the race course is going to intersect this, or if this thing's going to get any further south. So I think if they sticking to their current strategies of being on or close to the run line to minimize distance, they're going to be in plenty of good pressure for the remainder of this race. All right, now let's zoom in another. Okay, again, looking at the scale, this is 50 miles now separating. I wanted to call your attention to one boat. It was the Favonius guys. They wrote in at the position report this morning that they had a close encounter with a boat last night that passed them at high speed. So I think they were able to identify who that was, but maybe it'll be fun for us to do the same. And just keep zooming in here now. Okay. Okay, so now our scale bar is at 5 miles. I think these trackers are pretty accurate. I don't know the exact resolution, but certainly they have to be good to within a few meters or a few hundred meters. I don't know, but certainly close enough for this exercise. So if we go back in time to last night, now Favonius is a Daler 46. It's a cruiser racer, and as you can see, the boats that are around her are passing her at high speed. So these are boats that are in the Medicine Man, for example. They were the Saturday starters, fastest divisions. Zvi, Reichel, Pugh, 55. They too, 14.7 knots. They're they're going quite fast compared to the 10 knots that Favonius is going. So certainly they look like they're parked in a freeway with relative speeds around them. If we go back in time a little more, look at this one here. They're almost overlapping. Who is that? Well, that's a team from Chicago, actually. The Pac 52 called Callisto. They're a new to Transpac, great group from Chicago that have not done the MAC race this year, which is actually just concluded today in Lake Michigan, and instead taking the boat out to the West Coast and pursuing this adventure of doing Transpac. But they got certainly within shouting distance of each other. Again, if this scale is 5 miles, maybe we can zoom in one more. I'm not quite sure what the ultimate resolution is here. Yeah, that's a 3 mile bar down here. So if you believe the accuracy of this tracker, they got quite close indeed. Ships passing in the night, high speed. Now remember, this is overcast, and while there is a moon out there, it's not going to be that visible. There's reports from the teams in the course that it's pretty dark. In fact, the Favonius guys wrote that they felt like it was they were sailing in a mine shaft. So to see some running lights coming at them from dead astern at high speed must have been quite the sight indeed. All right, let's go back out. Now, the other thing to notice, of course, is the zigzags in our tracks. Oh, yes, I did want to point out one thing. Amongst the tools up here in the toolbar at the top, nope, it's not that one, it's that one. This toggles the trails of where these boats have gone. So no trails at all to trails that go for, I don't know, a few hours probably, a few skeds maybe. And then trails that are a little less pronounced, so that as the groups get crowded, they don't bump into each other graphically like that. That gets a little busy. So I like this one that shows the most shows trails from probably a few skeds. So it gives you an idea of what they've been doing the last few hours. Starting to see a few more boats jibing. The Horizon, Santa Cruz 50, Rapid Transit, Nereid, the J125, and then here Wacket. Now, for Wacket to jibe, it's a big effort. That boat, by the way, downwind angles in that boat are such that their apparent wind angle is apparently about 60 degrees. The wind's always far forward. They don't have, certainly don't have spinnaker pole, and they certainly what they're flying off their bowsprit is something that looks more like a Genoa than a spinnaker as we know it, and always at high speed. So these guys are typically in 16 to 19 knots of boat speed, and then as the wind shifts, and the navigator Peter Iser says, you know what, guys, we should jibe because we're going to be optimal on the other jibe and sailing less distance to Hawaii. That's a big operation. It takes about 20 minutes. You've got a couple of 100 kilos of sails to move. They stack sails on the rail of these boats to help give them more stability. More stability means more horsepower, which in turn obviously means more speed. So jibing's a big operation. They choose when they jibe carefully. It's not going to be on every shift like you might do on boats with conventional poles or smaller boats. This deliberate move on their part. Actually, let's scroll forward in time. Go to their tracks. Yeah, so they took a big jog probably last night. This is early morning. They jibe back and are now back. Appear to be back, but again, this is 4 hours ago. Who knows? Maybe they've jibed back to port. But it's a deliberate move. It's one that they do when it's super favored and to their benefit. Okay. What else do we have here? We also want to just point out our division leaders, Bad Pack, the Boat Team 56. This is in the same division as Wacket, and they're winning on corrected time. So using their handicap, which is a time-on-time coefficient, times the projection of when their elapsed time will be at the finish. There's a few different things that go into that calculation. Then we get them as being a projected leader, first in Division 1, and actually third ORR overall. So these that's quite a good result. The other crowns out here, Brett Walda 3, they've consistently been ahead in their division. They're in Division 5, and they're still speeding along nicely. You can see a couple of jibes in their recent tracks. Those guys are very good sailors, and we look to them to do well in that division. The Triumph, Santa Cruz 52, is first in Division 6. This is, yep, they are, how far? Let's see. So 1295. So they are probably at or past their halfway point in the race. And so, we're, in fact, most of these boats in here in real time right now are probably at the halfway point, which yesterday, as we know, was our headline was the first boat out on the race course, Ho'okolohe. I'm going to butcher that again. Ho'okolohe. Yes, I believe that's correct. Thanks for everybody writing in to say, I hope you get it, pal. Yeah, I'm a professed Hawaii. I'm still working on my Hawaiian, so thanks for your patience. But that team has what is reckoned to be just about a Bermuda race length of the race course. In this sked, 737 miles, they're going about 230 to 250 a day, 11 knots, so that's pretty good progress. 4 hours, 1/4 of that, yeah. So you deduct that off. They got a little bit more than a Bermuda race to go to the finish. Now, the big question, as we had yesterday, is, will they get there before Wacket does? And we'll see. We'll know more in about a day or two, and this will become much more apparent. They too, jibing down the course. They're heading. Everybody's heading right down the run line, really just minimizing the distance. This is a sign of just very stable conditions and confidence that there's not going to be any big moves in the weather. Okay, so with that summary, I'll conclude our show for today. Thanks for tuning in. We'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow on the 21st of July, the 8th day of this 2021 Transpac. So long for now. I'm Dobbs Davis for the Trans-Pacific Yacht Club.